Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jonathan Lucas. I'm the UKMC Admissions Manager, and welcome to our Work Experience versus Qualifications seminar involving what matters more in applying to UKMC. My name is Jonathan, as I've said, and this is my colleague.
Hi, my name is James. I'm a student recruitment officer here at UK Management College. And as Jonathan just said, we're very excited to bring you this talk and go into a bit more detail about work experience, qualifications, and the sort of impact that they can have on your application at UKMC.
We absolutely are. We've got a fun-packed afternoon for you here today. So without any further ado, my colleague James is going to start off our presentation. Sorry to interrupt you, my friend.
No, that's quite all right. That's quite all right. So I'll just start off by giving a little introduction to who we are and the kinds of things that we do. So UKMC are a higher education provider. We have partnerships with other UK universities to bring university level courses and degrees to students who might otherwise not find them particularly accessible. We offer a wide range of courses at the moment, particularly digital marketing management and business management, which are both very popular courses with a lot of our students. And as I said, we're all about providing these accessible routes to higher education to students who might not necessarily otherwise be able to access it. We believe that everyone should have a right to higher education in the UK, regardless of your previous academic qualifications. So just because someone did not get the kind of GCSE grades that they wanted when they were 16, it should not lock them out of those opportunities for a lifetime. So we're all about bringing these opportunities to students through our partnerships with universities like the University of Wolverhampton, and giving students an opportunity to advance their education. So currently, we're operating across 4 campuses in 3 different UK cities. We have our 2 campuses in Manchester, our Newcastle campus as well, and our Derby campus, which are both newer additions to the UKMC family. So we're very excited to be operating across these 3 incredible cities, these growing cities with very vibrant communities, and they're fantastic environments for students to study in and just experience, I think, the diversity, and the sort of vibrancy that the UK has to offer.
We absolutely are. As we say, growing business, and we're looking for eager-minded students who have the drive, the passion, and the enthusiasm to really put their money where their mouth is and showcase what they can do, showing that academic qualifications are not the only way into higher education, and that work experience can be just as valuable, if not more valuable, to your academic journey. So allow me to talk you a little bit through the admissions process, because it's a very, very straightforward process that we have here at UKMC. We're all about making sure that the application process is as straightforward and as clean cut as it can possibly be, and that you have the easiest and most straightforward application process you've ever had. So it starts very simply by creating your application on what's known as our online portal. It's an online system that contains everything you will ever need to know about your application, your status, all your documentation, your interview information, everything you can need to know, all securely stored in one location. So you set up your application, you give us all your details and information, and then you upload your documentation to go alongside that. So we don't ask for reels of information. We don't ask for lots of details from you. We ask just to keep it simple. We need just 4 documents from you: a proof of address, an ID, your qualifications or CV, whichever is relevant, as well as confirmation of any residency or visa status that you may have. So very, very simple information, very simple documentation for you to provide for us. And we do, after that, the application comes through to us. That's myself in the admissions team. And we do your review. We check everything. We make sure that you are located a good distance from the center, as all of our courses are available in center only. So we want to make sure that the travel distance won't be an issue for you. We also do a thorough check of all of your documentation, making sure that they are sufficient for ourselves and our partner institution. And anything that's missing or anything we need you to change, we'll reach out and tell you that directly and make sure that we are corresponding that information to you, keeping you in the loop and keeping you informed. After that, fingers crossed everything goes well, you'll then be invited to attend an interview day. Interview days are very straightforward. Again, we've tried to keep it really, really simple for our students. We don't want people jumping through lots of complicated hoops. We want you to come and enjoy your time at UKMC. And the interview day is part of that. The interview itself takes about half an hour, and it's just an open conversation with one of our interviewers about your motivations, your experience, and why you want to study this course, what you plan to get out of it, and your future dreams and ambitions as far as this program is concerned. After that, assuming again that all went well, you'll come back to the admissions team. We'll do a final review, make sure that we've crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's, and everything is exactly as we want it. And we will then submit your application to our partner institutions. As my colleague James has said, that may be Wolverhampton or one of our other partner providers. They will then take your application forward. You'll be receiving your official offer letter, your start date for your program, and it's just like applying to any other higher education provider or university. You'll go through all the same stages, all the same steps. You'll come in for an enrollment, you'll get your ID card, and you'll be able to start your classes with us. And we cannot wait to meet you. So, now I want to talk a little bit about the role of qualifications, because we're going to mention them a few times over the course of this webinar, and we just want to make sure that everyone understands what the function of a qualification really is. So academic qualifications, they set the expected difficulty for anything you're about to study. If you go online to any UK university website and you look up their available courses, you'll see a whole range of different criteria set for you to start that program. They may ask for A-levels, they may ask for UCAS points, or if it's a postgrad qualification, they may even ask for a whole bachelor's degree. Many different forms of criteria are set. And the reason they do that is they set the standard for how difficult that course is going to be. Just to give you a simple example, if you were applying for a medical course or a law course, you would expect to see a higher criteria on that entry than, say, a more vocationally based course, or even something like a business course or something like psychology. And the reason they do that is because they want students, before they apply, to understand that some courses are going to be harder than others. So they naturally set their entry criteria at a higher level for that process. We also understand that sometimes, as I say, specific knowledge is required before you start a program. To use the examples I just gave, if you were studying medicine, for example, they might ask you to already have studies or qualifications in a medical science, or even just in something like biology, chemistry, physics, or even just a high level of English or mathematics required. Same if you were studying law, especially at postgraduate level, there is a requirement that you have an understanding of law already before you start that program. The reason they do that is to make sure that no student is at an active disadvantage to anyone else. If they expect you to have knowledge from day one, they have to put that in the entry criteria. Our courses do not have any assumed knowledge. We just want enthusiasm and enough work experience that we can offer you a placement on our courses. So there's nothing that you need to know as far as previous study details. If you're studying digital marketing, you don't have to have studied marketing previously or anything related to digital media. Same with business management. We're not expecting you to have done GCSEs or A-levels in business. If you have, great, fantastic. Gives you a head start right at the beginning, but it is most certainly not mandatory. And finally, the reason that we use qualifications is it demonstrates academic experience through grades and results. So by that, I simply mean when you present someone with a list of your achieved grades, you are showing them on paper exactly how well you can perform in an academic environment. Don't get me wrong, they don't always tell the full story. You might have had a really bad day, or you might have really struggled with one particular module. I myself certainly did. But that doesn't mean that it's not still a good demonstration of how well you can perform academically, and hopefully it's your best self put forward on a piece of paper. So use your qualifications to demonstrate exactly where your skills are and exactly what you can do and what you can offer to any business, employer, or to your own future ambitions.
Thank you, Jonathan. And I think, when we're talking about admissions, it's really important not just to talk about academic qualifications, but something that is a massive part of UK Management College is accepting applicants based on their work experience as well. And so I want to go through a few reasons why work experience is a good option for an application and how it can strengthen an application. So the first thing to sort of note is that work experience serves as an alternative for academic qualifications. This is not just something that can be used to reinforce an application that already has academic qualifications. This is an alternative route for people who don't necessarily have those qualifications. As I said, we're all about providing these routes for people to higher education, regardless of their academic background. So if someone doesn't have any GCSEs, doesn't have any A-levels, hasn't studied a BTEC or a level 3 at any point in their lives, then we can ask for their work experience. We can see what skills they've gained from that, what experience they've had in certain industries, or working in certain roles. And so based on this, provided the applicant is over 21 years old and has at least 2 years of full-time work experience within the last 10 years, we can look at their work experience and use that as an alternative means to sort of get their application processed. It is a valuable thing for an applicant to have as work experience, alternatively to academic qualifications. And that kind of brings me on to my second point here, is that it's not just about what you've learned at school, it's about the skills that you have. And a person's skill set can be perfectly demonstrated by their work experience. So we look at people's work experience, the jobs they've worked, the responsibilities they've had, the achievements that they've completed. And we learn from that the skill set that an applicant has, the unique skill set that they have, and how that might help them on the course. So it's really important that an applicant is aware of how to frame their skills in a way that shows their relevance to the course that they're doing. We're not asking for them to have prior industry experience in business or in digital marketing. We're asking for them to demonstrate skills that might be relevant. For example, maybe they've only worked in retail, but that demonstrates problem solving, that demonstrates organization, that demonstrates teamwork. These are all valuable skills to any degree, to any course. And these are things that we take note of and that we use as a means to propel these applicants into higher education, because it does show that they have the capabilities, that they have the means of going this far. And on my last point, I want to sort of make note that, academic qualifications don't necessarily take priority over employment history. Neither does employment history take priority over academic qualifications. It's stressing my sort of first point is that this is an alternative route. These are two separate routes. They are equal routes, okay? We do not hold one route in a higher regard than another. Academic qualifications show skills in some areas. Employment history shows skills in other areas. They are the same in terms of the value that they hold to an applicant's application and, their sort of value to this course and to UK Management College. Now, on the topic of applications as well, I also want to sort of go through a few misconceptions about applying at UK Management College, some impressions that people have over, applying for higher education in general, and just kind of bust a few myths, basically. So the first common misconception about applications for UKMC is that academic qualifications are mandatory. As we've covered, academic qualifications are absolutely not mandatory. These are a route to higher education with UKMC, but it is not the only route. If someone can demonstrate ample work experience, if they have at least 2 years of full-time work experience within the last 10 years, that's an alternative route to this. And so academic qualifications are absolutely not mandatory to apply for our courses. The second misconception is that work experience that an applicant has needs to be relevant to the course that they're studying for. So if they're studying or if they're applying for business management, do they need to have prior experience in the business sector? If they're applying for digital marketing, do they need to have prior experience in that kind of role, in a design role, a creative role? Absolutely not. No, they just need to be able to demonstrate skills that are relevant to the course, that are valuable to the course. And as I sort of gave an example for before, these can be as simple as things like teamwork, things like organization, problem solving. They are simple skills, but they're so valuable in higher education, and they can really take a person far. And these are things that we recognise, that we take note of, and that we value from our applicants. Another misconception is that there is an upper age limit on higher education. Absolutely not. Age is a protected characteristic. We would never discriminate against a person based on their age. There is no limit for how old you can be to get into higher education. It is never too late for anyone, and we would never prioritize an applicant based on their age or turn down an applicant because they were too old or anything like that. It's unacceptable in the modern day for those kinds of discriminations to even take place, and it's not something that would ever take place at UK Management College. Another misconception is that we do not accept qualifications, educational qualifications from other countries. Again, not true. So if an applicant has a high school diploma, for example, from, let's say, Spain, or, it's not something that is necessary. It does not weaken their application if their qualifications from another country. We recognise qualifications from all over the world as long as we can equate it to a qualification in the UK, and we can equate it to a qualification that is a requirement for applying at UKMC on the academic route. It does not matter if a qualification is from another country. Sometimes students are reluctant to declare or mention qualifications because they're from their home country and they might not think it'd be relevant to this application, but it always is. We recognise qualifications from all over the world and we value them. And lastly, another common misconception is that we ask for a lot of documents during the application process. So I know a lot of people must think, it must be so difficult to apply. It must be such a long and strenuous process. What they're going to ask for? Are they going to ask for, a logbook of my tax returns and my life history, this, that, and the other? No. All we need from applicants is proof of ID, proof of address. Depending on which route they're applying on, we need either their qualifications, their educational qualifications, or a CV if they're applying with their work experience. And if they are not a UK citizen, then we will ask for a proof of residency, so a share code or an e-visa. That's 4 documents. For some students, 3 documents. It's not a lot at all, and it's not a long or strenuous process in the slightest.
Thank you very much indeed, James. As was just said there, we don't ask for lots of documents. You don't need to have UK studies. You don't even have to have relevant studies or relevant experience. We really are trying to make sure that we're living up to our policy and our mission statement, our goal as an institution, to remove barriers to higher education and to encourage those who may feel that they are unable to get into higher education and encourage them to really seek out those opportunities, because they are there and it's our goal to help you get there. So now I'm going to talk about a few practical tips to highlight your work experience. Some of these things will be very similar to what James has just advised. Good advice is always good advice, but I'll try and make sure that we're highlighting those best tips that you can put out there. So first of all, focus on the skills rather than the duties. This is something that we say to people all the time when they're writing their CV. It's like, it doesn't matter what your job title was. You could have been a shop floor manager. You could have been a cashier. You might have been an Uber driver or any other career. That's not the important thing. As my colleague has already said, the most important thing is the skills that you could demonstrate and the skills that you learned over the course of that employment. For example, as we said, if you're working as a cashier, for example, you're not just doing cash handling, which is a very important skill. You're complaint handling. You're demonstrating customer service excellent. You may even be doing stock management and rotation or attention to detail. There may also be various financial requirements and security systems that you need to learn and be a part of, whether it's just checking for real banknotes or making sure that payment systems go through. You've got to understand how to sell yourself and how to put those best skills forward. So please, if you ever are unsure how to really demonstrate or sell your experience, get in touch, reach out to us. We can't obviously tailor your CV to what we need, but we can certainly help give you some of those powerful words and highlight those best skills and best practices to make sure that your CV just really sells you as a person. Something else that we always encourage people to do as well is use bullet points. It sounds so simple, but one of the best things you can do for your CV is to keep it short, keep it concise, keep it to the point. And a bullet point does it better than ever. I mean, we're using them right now in this presentation just to keep the information clear, visible, and it draws the eye. It lets people know that you've got something to say, and it makes them focus on those key details. So use those bullet points. You don't need to write 3 paragraphs about what you did and everything you learned. Keep it short, keep it sweet, and the same goes for when you're writing your CV. I'll talk a little later on in this webinar about an example of 2 students who presented very different CVs. But do keep in mind, when you are sending in your CV, you want to keep it concise. 1 to 2 sides of A4 is about what we recommend. That's the best practice. If you've got loads to say about yourself, fantastic. We all should. We are all experts in ourselves. But that doesn't mean that you need to take up someone's whole afternoon just to read through your work history. So absolutely, keep those bullet points and keep them sharp, keep them concise, keep them clear. And the third point I always like to mention to people is highlight your very best roles. So we're not saying that you need to highlight, as you say, you don't need relevant work experience. We're not expecting you, if you're applying for a degree in digital marketing, to have spent the last 10 years working in digital marketing. If you have, fantastic. You'll be absolutely in the best place for it. But when we say highlight your best roles, really look out for those roles with the most fantastic sounding titles, with the skills that were the most reliant and most relevant and most impressive sounding. A lot of people say to me, oh, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging on my CV. Allow me to tell you, bragging is the whole point of your CV. It's a brag opportunity. You want to be selling your very best self. So if you had any kind of job title that's a leader, a manager, just has a high level of responsibility, make sure that that's on there, and make sure that it's on there in big letters, because you want people to know that you were trusted with these skills and with these responsibilities. James, do you want to carry this on for me?
Absolutely. I mean, on the topic of bragging, it is very important to not only talk about your sort of roles and responsibilities in work, but also your achievements. So again, this is another chance to show off and talk about not just the things that you were entrusted with or the things you did on a day-to-day, but the impact that you had in your workplace and the achievements and the sort of accomplishments that you've made in that environment. So it's not just about showcasing your sort of day-to-day roles and responsibilities. It's about the sort of the bigger picture as well, and focusing on your achievements and really showing that off, really bragging about that. As Jonathan rightly said, there is no such thing as bragging too much in a CV. It is your chance to brag. It is your chance to show off. This is about you. This is a chance for you to sell yourself to someone. And lastly, it's really important when kind of structuring your CV to use action words when talking about your roles, responsibilities, your achievements. So using words like managed, improved, developed, led, created, starting your bullet points with these words really make it stand out, really make it sound proactive, and help you to highlight your skills by talking about how you used them and how you demonstrated them.
Absolutely fantastic. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the academic achievements that you might want to highlight on your CV. Now, as we've already said, it's not one or the other. You can have a combination of some academic qualifications and achievements and some work history in your CV. It's a CV. It's there to sell you and everything that you've done. So it can be difficult sometimes to know what you're supposed to put down. I mean, when do you stop? If you've been in academia for a little while, you might have 5 to 10, maybe 15 years worth of experience. What do you write down? What do you include? What do you take out? Where do you stop at your GCSEs or your A levels or at your bachelor's degree? Well, I'm here just to help you cut through a bit of that confusion and give you some solid advice for how to do that. So, as my colleague James already said, overseas qualifications, do not ignore them, do not miss them out. Don't sleep on these, because we have the capacity, we have the means and the ways of equating those qualifications into their UK equivalents. So if you've done your start to study, if you've started your academic studies in a foreign country, that's absolutely fine. Tell us about it. If the more we know about you and about your academic history, the better an understanding we have about what you've done. And on some occasions, you may find that a qualification from overseas is actually worth more than you need. You could end up sailing through the admissions process on a foreign qualification. It's happened many, many times. And that is something that we do for you. You don't have to go out and find that equivalence for yourself. We will do that on your behalf. That is our responsibility, not yours. So don't be afraid to put those down. Really tell us everything that you can about you. You don't have to, just to be clear, you don't have to give us every single grade that you got. If you've got 12 GCSEs or 12 overseas equivalent GCSEs of secondary education, we don't want to see the marks for every single one. We don't need to know that. But if you've got that certificate and that qualification, by all means, put it down. You never know what we could use. Something else to make mention of is any post-grad qualifications or studies. Now, as I say, our doors are open to anyone. So you may have done a study a long time ago. I actually had an applicant earlier on this week, did his bachelor's degree in 1992 to 1995. That degree is older than most of our applicants. That degree is 30 years old right now. So it's completely fine that he's coming back into higher education. It's no problem at all that he wants to do more studies and refresh his information. But that bachelor's degree that he had was more than sufficient to get him onto the qualification and to get him onto the course. So yeah, if you have it, please mark it down. Doesn't matter how old it is. Qualifications do not expire. So we will take any academic experience that you have. And as I said, who knows? It could be your ticket to higher education. The third point that I've mentioned on here is qualifications linked to your field of study. As we've already said, it's not mandatory. No one's going to reject your application because you haven't studied the relevant subject. Of course not. But what we do always say is, if you've got that experience in a relative field, make sure you tell us about it. Really sing it to us, because that just means that you are a fantastic applicant. We want those students who are going to come in with, but they hit the ground running, head in the game, ready to do their very, very best. And if you're going to start a course with a bit of foreknowledge, even it doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to be huge. It might have been a module that you did over a different course of study. Might have been an individual class or a session that you did that'll help your understanding of this subject. Anything like that really helps us show that you're dedicated, that you're determined, that you're not just, oh, I want to do business management, but just because. You really do want to do business management. You've taken the time and put in the energy to study business in any way, shape, or form that you can find. And that's brilliant. That shows dedication, and that's what we want. Gold star for that applicant. We also say completed qualifications only. We have to be clear, we can only count qualifications that you've actually finished. On a number of occasions, we've had to tell students, it's great that you started this course, but unfortunately you didn't finish it, and that doesn't count, I'm afraid. So sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but completed qualifications only, please. Don't be bogging down your CV with a load of things that you started but weren't able to get to the end to for whatever reason. That's absolutely fine. We're not here to judge any of those circumstances, but we can only count the completed ones towards your academic criteria. So please only include those ones. And finally, top scores. As we've said several times, it's your day to brag. So make sure that if you do have high grades, high marks, whether in the UK or overseas, put those right at the top. You want to show off as much as you possibly can. So if you can show to the world that in one subject or another, you are the bee's knees of that business, then absolutely put that on there, because it just shows to us that, you have an area of specialization, and it doesn't have to be related to the field of study that you're doing. You might have a top mark in your home economics class or in your mathematics, business, or IT. Doesn't matter. It just shows that you could apply yourself. You were dedicated and you were a top performer, and that's what we're looking for. So please do make sure that you're showcasing those key academic achievements. We're now going to move on and show you a little bit about the best practices that you can do when providing supporting documents. James, do you mind if I start us off here, my friend?
No, please do.
Fantastic. Thank you. So the first document I'm going to talk about is the proof of address. What we always say to people is that passport pages need to be clear and visible in their entirety. We use a rule that we call the 4 corners rule. You need to be able to see all 4 corners of the document. So as long as you've got all of that in the image, it'll usually be absolutely fine. If you're coming at us with a driver's license and a birth certificate, that's absolutely fine as well. You don't need to have a passport. Just please be aware, it does have to be a UK driver's license and UK birth certificate ideally, but we will work with you with what the documents you have. If you don't have either of those, again, that's okay. We're here to make it work however we can. If you happen to have a national ID card from your home country, we will accept that as well. The only thing we ask is any card-based ID. Please give us the front and the back. Even if there's nothing written on it, we just need to verify that it's just a requirement that we need. So please bear with us. Sometimes there might be a few legalese or loopholes that we need to make sure, or boxes we need to tick. So please bear with us and we'll make sure that we are clear and concise and make it a seamless process for you as we possibly can. Looking at your proof of addresses, there are so many that you can provide. Many of our students think that you need to have only one document is fine, a bank statement. Oh, no. I could take the rest of this hour talking just about the documents that we accept as a proof of address. The only thing we say has to be within the last 6 months, ideally, so that it's valid at the start of your course. And it just has to be clear from a trusted bank or from a utility bill, a council tax, NHS letter. All manner of different documents have accepted. And I could tell you stories about some of the documentation that we've accepted. I believe on one occasion we accepted a random invitation for someone to appear on jury duty. It counted. It was official. We took that document. The only thing we ask, as we've said, is that it needs to be in your name, absolutely essential, and for your current home address. So whatever address you've provided us, make sure that your proof of address matches that. And as I said, so many of them, just about every bill for a utility, whether gas, electricity, internet, all of those, they count. A phone bill in your name, that absolutely counts. There is a plethora of documentation that we can provide and we can accept. So please do let us know if you're having any problems, and we can tell you exactly what we can accept. I even had a young lad apply recently, and he was living at home. Didn't have any document with his home address. He was on the family phone plan, and he obviously wasn't paying rent, so he wasn't on the listed on the home mortgage or on any of the utility bills. We were able to work around that. We were able to find a way to get something from that student that satisfied our requirements. So believe me, no obstruction is too much. We will find a way. And the last one I'm going to mention here is the CV. Now, we've talked a lot about this CV. By the end of this, your CV should be spectacular. Your CV should jump up in the morning and give you a handshake. But it should be well-structured, detailed, short and concise, but do include, as I say, your full work experience. The general rule of thumb is 10 to 15 years, but please try and put in as much as you can, because the more we can see of you, the more options we have and the better an understanding we get of you as an applicant. We like to take what's known as a holistic approach, which means we consider absolutely everything. So that's experience, qualifications, your work history, even what you do in your vacational time. Many of our students are surprised when we say to them, we see that you do lots of volunteering. And they're like, I didn't think that would matter. And we're like, no, that's exactly the kind of thing we want to know about you. It shows that you're dedicated and that you're willing to dedicate your time to something that is not a financially responsive investment. So excellent, absolutely excellent. And as we say, full list of skills. Focus on the skills. They're what's going to help you out the most. Thank you, James. I'll let you take over.
Thank you. So in terms of the alternative route to work experience, as we've sort of mentioned in the past, academic qualifications is another means through which applicants can apply at UKMC. And in terms of the specific types of qualifications we're looking for, we are asking for a minimum of either full GCSEs, so those are at passing grade. So I believe for new GCSEs, that would be a grade 4 or above. For old GCSEs, that's the equivalent of a C, or 2 A levels, or a level 3 equivalent qualification. So that can be NVQ, it can be Citizen Guilds, as long as it equates to about 60 credits. These are the sort of qualifications that we're looking for. Not all 3, obviously, but if they have full GCSEs or 2 A levels or a level 3 equivalent, that's generally what we're sort of looking for in terms of the eligibility for this route. In terms of submitting these documents, we ask for both the certificate and the transcript in order to just verify that they have completed these courses, that they have done these courses, and verify the grades for these courses. And these can be sent electronically as a PDF document, so in the original format that they would be provided electronically to the student, or they can be provided as a photo of the physical document, which is a much more convenient way to send it, I think, because most people will not necessarily be able to find it in their emails if it was 5 years ago, but most people will generally have the certificate tucked away somewhere. So we do accept a photo of the certificates. As Jonathan mentioned earlier, we use the four corners rule. So as long as the whole document is visible in the photo, that's absolutely fine. And then finally, residency documents. So if an applicant is not a UK citizen, then we will ask for some sort of proof of their residency. So this can either be a share code or it can be an e-visa. If it's an e-visa, it has to be submitted as a PDF document. For a share code, we can accept it as a PDF, we can accept a screenshot, as long as that is verifiable. On our end, that's absolutely fine. So yeah, it's not as daunting as we've kind of mentioned, this sending documents to apply at UKMC, as long as you have the guidance to know what to submit, to know what to send, then applicants are absolutely fine with this. And we're all about providing that kind of guidance, so applicants don't feel alone during this process and they don't feel lost. And, you know, submitting documents, whether you're submitting 4 documents or 40 documents, it can be daunting if you don't know what to submit. So it is important, and we do see it as a priority to help applicants through this process and help them to know what it is they need to submit, what it is they need to do in order to get their application sort of submitted. So I think this is a good chance to stop for a minute and take any questions if people have them. So we're just going to take a little break for 5 minutes and have a little Q&A. So if people do have questions about what we've covered so far, maybe what we haven't covered, then now is your chance. You have the floor. Here is your chance to ask us.
And we'll be keeping an eye on the chat just so we can answer those questions and address them directly. So, oh, I can see here we've got a question that's coming already. When can I expect to receive my official offer letter? Oh, that's an excellent question. That is the question on everybody's lips after they've completed their interview and got their official offer. How do I do it? The answer to that one is that you will receive your official letter after your application has been submitted to our partner institution. We will inform you when we do that. The partner institution, I'll use one of our partners, Wolverhampton, for example. They then have to do their own checks, make sure that everything we've submitted matches what they need, that we've provided all the relevant documents, and that they are happy with you as an applicant. This is a formality. It's just a requirement. Up to this stage, we've followed their practices exactly, so we know that our policies and theirs align perfectly. There should be never a situation whereby we need to request anything additional. But on the off chance that we do, we'll make sure you're kept informed. And after that, you will receive your official offer letter. Generally, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks for that to come through. But that is 2 to 3 weeks from when we upload to the partner institution. So just making sure you're aware of the time frame and how long that can take. All of this happens well ahead of the start of your program. Ah, fantastic. Thank you. I've just seen we've got another one who's come in, hot off the presses. So if I've already applied, do I need to interview again? Excellent question. Thank you very much indeed. So a lot of our students ask us this question. It's an unfortunate case of circumstances that not every applicant can be successful. We will help you out however we can, but sometimes the cards just don't fall that way and we are unable to accept you for a particular intake. However, never say never. We always want to try and help out our students and offer them an alternative. So that means that for the next intake, you're allowed to apply again. Now, if you've already passed your interview, you do not need to come back and do that interview again, provided it was done in the previous intake. The only rule that we have is that you can't carry forward an interview for too long, because anything that you might have done in January cannot be used in December, for example. However, for a good example, if you have applied in January but been unsuccessful and you reapply in May, you can carry over that interview from one intake into the next one. We just don't allow you to take it any further than the single intake beyond. So yes, you don't have to do that again, because a lot of our students are concerned that they don't always want to do the interview again. They might find it very stressful. And we just want to make sure that everyone is as comfortable as possible, and we're not asking people to duplicate the work they've already done.
Okay. If there are no other questions in the chat, we will be having another Q&A later on in the session. So if you have questions maybe loaded up, you will get another chance to ask them. I can't see any of the questions in the chat. But yeah, as I said, if you maybe can't come up with one on the spot, then it's absolutely fine. You can think about it. You'll have a little bit longer and sort of have them loaded up for the future, if there is anything that you're unclear about that you would like to ask. So, sorry, Jonathan, over to you.
It's all right. I recognize this is my case study. Absolutely. So what we'd like to do is provide you with a little bit of a case study, an example, if you will, of how we can show, just by a case of a couple of different students, how what we've been saying and the skills we've been identifying today can really help you. So allow me to present a case study, applicant A and applicant B, two poor individuals who had the poor judgment to be named applicant. So applicant A came to us with a huge CV. I'm talking 4 or 5 pages worth of document here. This was a meaty document indeed. It had fancy graphics on the corners. It had all kinds of clever templating and things. I'm pretty sure if I'd have printed it out, it'd have stood up and sung itself to me. It had lists of their achievements, the rewards, the books that they'd read, the documentation they'd been a part of. But most importantly, what it did not have is it didn't confirm their job roles. It was just a wall of text, like paragraph after paragraph, talking about the different things that they did. But at no point did it actually tell them what their job role was. And that's something we absolutely need. You can do all manner of things with your life, but we need to know what that job title was. Admissions manager, recruitment officer, whatever. We need to know what that title is. They also had no start or end date. They'd say things like, oh, well, I've been working in this field for many years. And it's like, okay, how many years specifically? Like, did you start in January and finish in May? What are we talking about here? We need to know those start dates, because our criteria, as we've said, is a minimum of 2 years. We need to know those dates so that we can be absolutely clear that we've got the good applicant on our hands. Now, applicant B, this was a horse of a different color, I can tell you. They came to us with a 1-page CV. Very, very simple. Just a black and white text document. No fancy graphics, no fancy lettering or anything like that. Just a very, very simple document. But what it did have was he clearly laid out his roles and his responsibilities. Just the job title, the name of the company he worked for, when he started, when he finished. You don't have to go into the specific days. You could just say from January 2022 to March 2024. We'll know how long that was. We don't need to know the particular days. That's fine. Just go with months and years. And he'd listed all of the responsibilities for that job as well. It was crystal clear, to use a chef's kiss. Mwah! It was perfect. It really was. And the difference between these two applicants is that applicant A overdid it way too much, way, way, way too much. And as a result, we were not able to confirm if he even had the work experience we needed. And we were not able to press forward with that applicant. Even after multiple attempts to get a more concise document or just get some clear details, we couldn't do it. Whereas applicant B, we got straight in for interview. And when we sat him down and we got talking to him, oh, he was passionate and articulate and effluent. He was brilliant. We loved having applicant B on site, and we were so happy that we got him onto the system. And what I just wanted to show with these two applicants is quite simply that at the end of the day, a big fancy CV with lots of impressive looking information on it isn't always going to do the job. We're not impressed by graphics. We're not impressed by fancy formats and layouts. What we are impressed by is clear information presented nicely with all the details that we need. We don't ever want our students to feel like they aren't selling their best selves, but just make sure that at the end of the day, all the fancy graphics in the world aren't going to get you the 2 years mandatory work experience. So really, take the time and make sure you're presenting your information clearly, because as in this case study, we were so happy to get applicant B, but unfortunately we just couldn't do anything with applicant A. So yeah, take the time to make sure your CV is the best version of you that you can present, even if it is just a simple black and white document.
Yeah, absolutely, Jonathan. Really important scenario there. And I have an additional sort of scenario to add to that. And this is just, I think, to clarify some of the nuances with regards to academic qualifications, what is accepted and what isn't accepted, and also employment history and the value that that can have to an application. So in my case study, applicant A and applicant B, no relation to the previous, are both over 21 years old. So they both, in terms of the age category, qualify for the non-academic route to apply with their work experience. Applicant A is applying for business management. So they really want to do business management with a foundation year, and they have a GCSE in business. So they did business at GCSE, they got an A, they absolutely aced it. But that is the only GCSE that they have. There are other GCSEs, they didn't do as well, and they don't have the grades that meet our requirements. So it's just the business GCSE that they have, but it shows that they have experience in business, right? So surely that should be enough. Well, because they don't have any work experience either, they can't apply for the alternative route. And with just the one GCSE, they're not eligible for the academic route. So even with the experience in business on an academic level, because they don't have the additional GCSEs, they wouldn't be able to be enrolled on the academic route. And because they don't have any work experience, they wouldn't be able to be enrolled on that route. So for this intake, they would not be eligible. They would need to come back to us when they have at least the 2 years of full-time work experience, or perhaps, they're currently studying for another course that will make them eligible for the academic route. But based on this, they would not be eligible to enroll in the course. Applicant B, on the other hand, they are also over 21, eligible for both routes based on their age. They're also applying for business management. They also really want to do business, but they have no GCSEs or any academic qualifications. They didn't get anything from high school. They didn't get the grades that they perhaps wanted, but they do have some work experience. So for the last 2 years, they've been working full-time in retail. Now, a lot of people would look at this and say, well, retail is not relevant to a business management course. They've got, no academic qualifications. Their only work experience is working in retail. Surely that wouldn't make them eligible, but actually the 2 years of full-time experience alone is what makes them eligible here. It doesn't matter that the work experience was in retail and customer service, anything like that. As we've said before, it's about the skills that they've picked up from that, not how much their job history relates directly to the course that they're applying at. It doesn't matter that they don't have a GCSE in business, that they've not studied it on an academic level before. It also doesn't matter that they don't have direct industry experience in business management. They have experience in employment, in full-time employment. That's what matters. Because from retail, we can see that they've got customer service skills. Again, organization, they work well in a team. Their communication is probably very good. These are characteristics and skills that are very important to a business degree, to a business course. So this is just to kind of clarify that, it doesn't matter what the work experience is specifically. It also doesn't matter if an applicant has previous educational experience in that specific topic. If it doesn't meet the criteria, it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't make them eligible for the course. But if they have work experience, it doesn't matter what industry it's in, it doesn't matter what area it's in. It's about the skills they've gained from that, and that's what matters. That's what makes them eligible for this. So, as I said, we're sort of coming back to our last Q&A of the session. So I can see already that some people have loaded up some questions. That's very good. First question that we have got is, does volunteering count as work experience? So unfortunately, on a CV, volunteering would not count as part of the 2 years of full-time work that we do ask for. However, this is not to devalue any volunteering experience in the slightest, because it is still well worth including on the CV. If someone already meets the criteria with those 2 years of full-time experience, any volunteering that they add on the CV is another way of demonstrating further skills that they've gained, and also their work ethic, the kind of person that they are. If they've done any kind of volunteering work, it tells us a lot about them on a personal level, but also about any further skills that they've gained from that they didn't necessarily gain in their full-time work. So volunteering is valuable for an application, absolutely. It doesn't count as the required work experience, but it's still well worth mentioning. Okay, brilliant. We have another question. So do I need job references to prove my work experience? So we don't tend to ask for job references from applicants. We ask for a CV. That is that's the most important document we ask for with regards to your work experience. We ask you first what your work experience is, and in some cases, we might go to certain employers and ask for work references in order to just verify that information. But generally, we will not ask you for any kind of work reference. If a certain job catches our eye and someone said that they were a manager for 5 years, that's a very significant job to include on a CV. And that is the kind of thing that we might just need to verify. We might need a employer reference for. That's something that we would contact the employer for. But generally, when you're providing your CV, you don't need to provide any references alongside that CV. As I said, if we need references, it's something that in those particular cases we will go and request ourselves.
Absolutely. And just to kind of touch on something else related to those, as I say, voluntary work, do include it. Absolutely wonderful to demonstrate that on your CV. As we say, it shows us so much more about you. As far as volunteering goes, unfortunately, as we say, it just doesn't going to count towards that minimum 2 years of work experience. So unfortunately, no, we can't use it to get you onto the program. And as I said there in relation to job references, our standard process, no, it's not. You don't need to provide those. If on a case-by-case basis we need to go back and get those, then that is something we can do and something we'll request from the individual. But as a point of practice, no, we don't. You don't need to prepare references in advance for your application. I also want to quickly just mention, if you are self-employed over a period of time, that is still okay. We can, on occasion, make use of self-employed work experience as well. The only thing we'll ask for is additional supporting documents to confirm that, because what we just want to avoid is that someone is fully working for themselves. For example, we might ask for a letter or invoice from your accountant just to confirm that you were using an accountant and were legally running a business during that time period. So in those case-by-case basis, we will go out and ask for additional information, and that will happen on a case-by-case basis based on what the student has provided. So yeah, don't be dissuaded from including those in your CV as well. As we've said throughout this presentation, show us everything. Tell us all about you. It's an excellent opportunity to do so, and you're the one that we're really interested in. So take the time and tell us everything that you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. So if there are no other questions in the chat, then we will just move on from this. I'll give everyone, another few seconds if anyone's furiously trying to type in that last question to fit in. But if we don't have any more questions, no. Okay, perfect. So we'll kind of cap this off then by talking about our current admissions process and how anyone watching can apply if they are interested. So our admissions process for the May intake is open now. So our classes for the current intake will start in May. The deadline for applications at the moment is the 26th of April. So if you are interested in applying, you have until the 26th to submit an application or register your interests, and then we can sort of help you through that process. With regards to any documents to be submitted for existing applications, the deadline for that is the 2nd of May. And the interview deadline will be, again, later that month. So if you do want to apply, if you are interested in getting in touch with UKMC about applying or about recruiting, then we have our contact information there. The first phone number is our landline number. The mobile number you can use to contact us on WhatsApp or on mobile, and you can email us instead. But yeah, do you have anything to add to that, Jonathan?
No, as you've said, covers absolutely everything. Just remember those deadlines. We do have to stick to those. Last applications, 26th of April, we want to give our students plenty of time before the course starts. So we've staggered our documentation and our interview deadlines as well for the May intake, because we want everything done and finished and marked off so that you can start your course with the confidence, knowing that everything is taken care of and fully informed, fully advised, everything in the right place, because we want our students to have the best experience possible. That's part of our mission statement at UKMC. That's how we run the business. We just want to make sure we're putting you as the student first and giving you the best experience that you can. So yeah, we're really looking forward to speaking with you. We hope you've enjoyed this webinar with us and taken away some useful information. As my colleague said, if you do have any questions, just reach out to us. We are here to help you. We've got phones, mobiles, emails. There's all manner of ways to get in touch with us, and we'd be overjoyed to help you. So we're really looking forward to speaking with you and helping you start your academic career.
Absolutely. Fantastic way to cap it off, Jonathan. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you everyone for attending. Really appreciate it. And we really hope that today was informative for you, that it was helpful for people, gave a bit of insight into UKMC, as well as more specifically our application process and the value that academic qualifications and work experience both have in getting people into higher education through UKMC. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you so much for attending. And I hope everyone has a lovely day and a lovely rest of your week.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful time. Bye now.